So that's perfect. We can go to our live roundtable panel discussion. We should have everyone here. Thank you so much for joining. We have April Britt, Executive Vice President and Chief Experience Officer from Studio Bank, who's one of our amazing sponsors of the Voice event. We have Patrick Sweetman, the CEO of Voice First. We have Bradley Metrock, also our keynote speaker earlier today, the CEO of Score Publishing. We have David Code, an amazing writer. He's in Italy right now. I have him as AI and machine learning at LinkedIn, and he's going to update us on that. And we have Daniel Hill, the creator of the Instagram Alexa Flash Briefing of Daniel Hill Media. Everyone in this first roundtable discussion, we're going to talk about healthcare, search, finance and banking, music and entertainment, and publishing. So I'm going to give Q Harrison a minute to get ready, and I'll start with April. April, you have extensive experience in banking, mainly on the customer experience side. What's your impression of current voice capabilities in the banking industry?
Well, I'm pretty excited that the voice is coming forward. I think I'm a user myself at home, and I think as tech is moving forward, folks are just going to be more interested in getting things faster, more efficient, and this will ultimately do that. Imagine, needing to check your balance instead of clicking an app and, clicking through a few steps. All of a sudden, all you have to do is ask your Alexa, what's in my account? It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I know we've talked about a lot of the larger international banks and national banks already having account linking on Alexa where, like Chase and Capital One and some of the others have that. And at Studio Bank, have you thought of implementing any Alexa skills or Google Actions? And can you talk about why or why not and the challenges / upside to going in this direction?
Yes, and I'll have to apologize. You're hearing a phone behind me. Who even has a plugged-in phone anymore? But I do. So there is a phone in this office. So don't make fun of me. I know, tech, right? Yes, absolutely. When I met Paul, actually, was the first one that really introduced my mind into voice, and I just got overly excited. Probably the first day I was ready to sign a contract, and before I talked to the IT guy at the bank and, of course, the compliance folks, and they said, no, we need to kind of think this through a little bit further than maybe 30-minute conversation. But I'm really excited about it. I do think that, for us as a local bank, so we're not, a huge, large national conglomerate bank that has, tons of money and tons of time to implement various projects like this and research it on their own. For us, we have to depend on certain technology vendors, et cetera. But we are creating a different model, we feel like, for local banking. And we say that it's membership-based, it's tech-savvy, and it's hospitality-inspired. So for me, voice absolutely connects right to that tech-savvy part of our model. And so it only makes sense that we would introduce it pretty quickly, in my opinion, before we see other local banks hopping on the same capabilities. Because it's coming, it's going to happen. And I'd love to be on the front end of that, because again, that just helps us show our clients that we're thinking, above.
Yeah. I think that's great. I think Studio Bank is an amazing marketing team. They're amazing customer service, and I think they're on the precipice of doing some things in the voice space. Let's turn it over to Patrick Sweetman, the CEO of Voice First. You have a really strong background in voice, Patrick. Can you tell us more about that and why you got into it?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Paul. Really been looking forward to this event. My background has actually been in trying to find a synergy between humans and machines. I'm a big engineer. I've been coding all my life, and finding ambient computing in Internet of Things, finding computers that are just integrated passively in our surrounding environments has always been big in my life. So when I started building for Amazon Alexa, it was very tapped into already having these passive computers integrated into our lives. And engineering, I've worked at Amazon, so I worked down the hall from Amazon, and that was really where I kicked off Voice First to try to help businesses to earn more money on these emerging platforms. And I'm sure we'll talk more about it later. We're now helping musicians earn more on Amazon Alexa than they do on Spotify, SoundCloud, and all the other streaming platforms.
Yeah, that's where I was gonna go next, because I've seen your content on Instagram. And what's your Instagram handle where you're putting that content out for everyone?
Thank you. At Voice First AI on all social media sites.
Okay. Yeah, I highly encourage everybody to check out at Voice First AI, because Pat's got some amazing things that he's doing for musicians. Talk about that and like really get into it, because I think it's amazing. And the user experience, I can tell, is top notch just from looking at your Instagram content.
We're helping musicians to finally take control of how much they're earning. Musicians have always been at the effect of the major streaming platforms. Spotify gives them pennies on the dollar, SoundCloud the same, iTunes the same, YouTube. It's very hard to monetize on these big platforms. What's nice about Alexa is it's a new stream of income. And if you're using the Alexa for Musicians platform, you get to decide how much you make, which totally flips the paradigm for musicians. Musicians can work from home, they can work remotely, and they can focus on creating their music and earn more money than they do on the platforms. And it's just an additional source. It's not like, oh, okay, do I have to do Alexa and not any of the other streams? No, this is an additional stream of income. So you earn on Spotify, on your YouTube, everywhere else, and you earn money on Alexa. So we're helping musicians earn more money, and they get to put their voice on Alexa, so that instead of hearing the synthetic voice, when a fan talks to their Alexa device, they hear that musician's voice coming back, which is what you see all the time on our Instagram and TikTok and all the other social platforms. We have the musicians actually talking to themselves. If they are based here in Ohio, we will film them. We call it the Talk to Me session, where the musician shows the fans how to engage with that Alexa skill by having the musician talk to themselves by talking to Amazon Alexa and having a back and forth conversation with themselves.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I think it's amazing. It sounds like an amazing product, an amazing experience for the musicians, that they can monetize that. It's a great, I think, experience probably for the fans at some point. So I think you're onto something there, and you got to keep going. Where can musicians who, I know you have a workshop, and the original plan was to actually do a musicians workshop in Nashville, but we had to save that for another day, which we will make happen at some point. Where can musicians go now to contact you if they want to take advantage of your services?
Musicians, 100% free. There's no reason not to. Go to Alexa, the number 4, musicians.com to put your voice on Alexa and to start earning money using your voice.
Amazing. Okay, switching real quick. Why should businesses? Because I've seen you've been with us since the start of the conference today, and I appreciate that. Why should small business, and Dawn Avery, who you work with, has been active on the chat talking about small businesses. Shout out to Dawn. She was at the event last year in person at Thistle Farms. Why do small businesses need to be on Alexa and Google Assistant?
First, shouts out Dawn Avery. She pretty much keeps the whole team together. So thank you, Dawn, for staying with us. 2 reasons. I think the first is touch-free. We're living in a global pandemic. Yes, there's a lot of disadvantages that's happening, but also a lot of opportunities being created. Touch-free, enabling your business to be touch-free is perfect to be enabling that right now. And the second opportunity is to actually earn that return on investment. You can see on our website, alexaformusicians.com/leaderboard, you can look at the data we presented open source. The early adopters are earning money. They are earning the money from this platform. Whoever invests first, they would get that return on the investment. The people who are making the investments get the return. So if you're a musician, if you're a business owner, and you want to be earning that additional income, you want to be jumping in early before everybody else so that you can grab a larger portion of that market share. So like most of our customers, a lot of the musicians that we're seeing are earning up to $7,200 each year in passive annual recurring revenue. So their revenue, their annual recurring revenue is increasing by $7,200 each year passively, just from being an early adopter to this technology. So again, the first reason, touch-free, meet your customers where they are. Everyone's wearing masks, nobody wants to touch. The other reason, earn passive revenue into an untapped market.
Love it. Thanks, Pat. Great seeing you. Really excited that you were able to join us today. And I know there's more to come as we work in the voice space together and helping businesses grow. So thanks for being here. Up next, Bradley Metrock again. Project Voice, Score Publishing. Bradley, you just hosted a big online event, the Voice of Healthcare Summit this week. Can you tell us more about that event?
I was too busy looking at Alexa for musicians.com. Yeah, this is good, Pat. We need to talk. I can't say everything I want to say right now. We need to talk. So yeah, we did. So we did something called the Voice of Healthcare Summit this week. Typically takes place at Harvard Medical School. Harvard Medical School is closed right now, and even if it were open, I don't think it would matter. So we took it virtual, and it was great. People had a good time, and it was a good opportunity to see and really get current on a lot of pioneers working in that space, who, on the technology side, who are applying voice and conversational AI to different aspects of healthcare and life sciences. And then, seeing healthcare providers and how they're looking at it. Groups like United Healthcare were part of it, sharing their perspective on just the way it's all moving. So yeah, it went well, and I appreciate you shouting it out.
Yeah, so you hit on a lot of really great stuff in your keynote. Can you get healthcare specific for a minute and tell us what's happening right now in healthcare related to voice that everyone joining really needs to know about?
Yeah, the biggest thing is just the acceleration. What we've seen with this pandemic is across the board an acceleration of trends that had started before COVID-19 ever showed up. So, and it's personal, it's professional, it's everything. And we've seen it. You could just start naming things. Hotels. Hotels aren't clean enough, and we knew that before all of this. And so now there's an emphasis on being super clean. People wanted restaurants to be able to deliver to them different ways, and now that's if you don't do that, you're dead. People wanted to be able to attend school in different ways, and now that flexibility is blown wide open. I could go on and on and on and on and on. And in terms of healthcare, people wanted the story there is flexibility as well. People wanted flexibility to address their own health in ways that modern healthcare really has been slow to provide. And a lot of it's been regulatory. There's been a number of hurdles in the way. And one by one, those have been addressed rapidly within this pandemic, to where, telehealth now, the door's blown off of that. That genie's never going back in the bottle. And, Alexa, Google Assistant, all of voice and AI has a big role to play with that. When you get down, so that's sort of the macro level trend. Then when you get into very specific types of healthcare and specific ailments, things like Parkinson's, things like COVID, there's different approaches that involve voice for a lot of different ones. And so yeah, there's a lot of action, and the fence sitting that was going on with voice in healthcare is over. People, you used to hear a year and a half to 2 years ago when we started the Voice of Healthcare Summit. In fact, it was a common refrain. Yeah, I agree. That's the way the world's moving. It's not there yet. And I'm trying to figure out, what level of urgency I ought to ascribe to this. And now that conversation's over. Now I understand it. This is very urgent. And now it's just a matter of what steps I'm going to embark on.
So to that point, are there Alexa skills or Google actions that businesses can contribute now and in the future, healthcare specifically, or even outside of healthcare? And I mean, we have knowing the audience that's watching this right now, that's with us and that will watch it later, like these are people that really want to know this stuff, because I think everyone's looking for an opportunity. And when you take some of the first party capabilities you talked about in your keynote, and then you combine them with something that a developer can do, any examples that strike you as skills or actions that can be created that aren't there yet?
Well, yeah, I'll answer that too with two different ways. Okay, so at the Voice of Healthcare Summit, a major theme was, and something that I've been in the habit of asking people off the record before the conference is, and I don't know what to call it. For now, I'll just call it Alexa 2.0. We saw the rollout of a lot of early adopters embracing voice, whether they use something like Alexa Skills Blueprints, or whether they had a developer put something together for them, or however it is they got there. The experimentation phase has been ongoing for the last couple of years. And so, like with the Voice of Healthcare Summit, we had United Healthcare talking about the Alexa skill they developed with the Keck School of Medicine out in the University of Southern California. And they put it together just like, Mayo Clinic did one. There's been several that have sort of experimented with Alexa skills in the space. So the question now is, okay, we've already established that the pandemic is accelerating everything. And so if that's true, what is it that we're going to be seeing? What's that evolution for voice? What's that next step, that step change, that next thing we're going to see that or the early adopters are going to be in the position to execute on, that maybe other people, maybe they're in position to do it, maybe not. And there was some discussion over that because, some people have gone from creating an Alexa skill as an experiment to expanding horizontally into Google Assistant, into Bixby, on occasion into some more niche players like a Mycroft or a SoundHound or something like that. But where my mind is at is vertically, diving in deeper. What's the next level functions that will take that Alexa skill you've already created in stage 1.0 one step further? And I don't really know the answer to that. One thing that is part of it is Amazon just announced, I'm sure Jeff Blankenberg will talk about it later today, quick links. So solving a major problem with the Alexa ecosystem and with every other voice ecosystem, which is discoverability. So if you are a bank, like April was talking about, and you create a skill and people can check their balance, and it's Alexa4musicians.com, by the way, person in the chat, number 4. So the idea is that it's hard to find voice experiences. Yes, you can dive into the Alexa Skills Marketplace. That's a tough place to navigate. It really comes down to businesses having their own marketing, their own pre-existing audiences to get the word out. But with what Amazon's done with quick links, that's that's going to be an important part of Alexa Skills 2.0, whatever that constitutes, because every company that's really serious about investing time and money into being on the Alexa ecosystem is going to want to simplify the process of allowing people to enjoy that experience to just be one simple link that they can send out through social, through email, or whatever. So, I guess I will conclude that line of thought into we're now seeing from the major tech players some things that herald the arrival of voice experience 2.0, and it'll just be incumbent upon everybody who's already dabbled in the waters, created voice experiences already, to keep an eye on those.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that was probably the toughest question that I had for anybody, and you did a good job of answering it. So I appreciate that. Well, so up next we have David Code. We met at Bradley's event, Project Voice, and David, you're doing a lot in the voice space. Can you tell us about your professional experience and how you got into voice? And by the way, thank you for joining us from Italy right now. Good to see you.
Hey, it's fabulous to see you too, Paul. I'm a jack of all trades. I got into this on the linguistics side. I'm fluent in 5 languages. I know a lot about learning languages. I've always been fascinated by teaching computers how to talk, or maybe more accurately, how to understand humans. And so I taught myself artificial intelligence, and one of the best ways that I know to learn something is to teach it to someone else. So my rocket ship to fame was when I created a textbook, a kind of interactive textbook teaching artificial intelligence, and it skyrocketed on the subreddit of machine learning. And then LinkedIn came a calling and said, "Hey, can you do that for us?" And I said, "Yes, I can." So that's where I got started. Voice user interface. I think if I had to sum myself up, I like to think of myself as a champion for the user. I grew up poor on a farm. Neither of my parents finished high school. And I watched them be dominated and answer to the authorities of anybody who sounded like they were better educated than my parents were. And I thought, just a minute, this isn't right. We should have somebody. I don't want my parents to have that kind of experience, or people like my parents to have that kind of experience. So what I'm interested in is UX, both for voice and general UX writing, helping the user to feel more comfortable, not assuming that the user is a genius early adopter. I'm the guy that wants the user to be happy and comfortable across the board. And that has often shown up in search. I'm fascinated by search. So that's, I think, where you and I started talking, was in my interest in search.
Yeah, that's a great overview. I mean, I love several things about that. I love that learning by doing and really rolling up your sleeves and figuring things out, and then writing about it, telling people about it, trying to do it in a better, more user-friendly way, and then being an advocate for the user. I think that's very important. And tell us what you're working on right now, because you're right. You and I talked a lot about what you were working on with the search voice app. Are you still? Do you have an update for us on that, or what are you working on these days?
Well, I'll give you a quick update on what I'm doing in Italy. Before I started writing for LinkedIn, I wrote travel. I was a travel writer for Huffington Post for 5 years. And when COVID came along, Italy was one of the first into lockdown and one of the first out of lockdown. And they have had a stunningly successful battle against COVID. You can't say they've licked it, but damn, they've done a really good job. And there were a lot of my contacts in Italy saying, "Dave, can you come back and write about the success story in Italy and invite Americans and other folks back to travel here?" Because the tourist industry is a big part of this country's economy, and they are reeling right now. So my job is basically, I've been traveling Italy for 7 weeks and writing articles about how how safe it is here, how empty it is here of tourists. It's the perfect time to visit Tuscany or Cinque Terre or the Amalfi Coast or Capri or Rome, or shall I go on? And so that has been my extremely difficult job, is traveling around Italy and writing about it. So that's what I'm doing now, but that's just for the summer. I couldn't resist. What I've been focused on is search, and voice search specifically. It all started with my wife, who's got lovely degrees from all the right schools, but she told me how frustrated she was by search, and I was like, how can this be? Everybody's comfortable with search. I am, therefore everybody must be. And it was she who really helped me to understand that a lot of people out there are not comfortable with search. And her problem was, how do I know if I'm getting the right results? How do I know when I'm finished? I thought, man, that's the question I'd like to answer. And at first I thought it was just, because we are of a certain age, we're both 29. But then when I checked it out with my teenagers, they also suck at search. I'm like, just a second, there's something going on here. So my dream was to turn search into, instead of tapping into the little Google search box, to actually be able to speak. I call it babble search, to babble. I'm thinking about going to Mexico for a trip, and my uncle says I should go here, and my dentist told me I should go there, but there's too many options online, and can you just give me some good ideas for what to do? And you see, just that little mini paragraph of babbling, that's the way we interact with each other. That's the way we want to interact with our computer. And so I set up this lovely little Amazon Alexa skill, where that starts a conversation. And it's like, oh, okay, well, what about this? Have you thought about that? Should we try this? How do you want to refine your search? And all that kind of stuff. And so what I have, it's still clunky, but what's fabulous about it, my biggest discovery is that when people talk to the computer, say what they want to search, they're willing to search a much broader spectrum. They're willing to take on really complex problems instead of just, Googling sports scores or the latest moves on Kim Kardashian. So that's what I like about Babel search and about voice search in general, is I really think it opens up the playing field for what we can search for.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. And it's kind of funny. There's one place in Italy that you didn't mention that I actually went to a month ago with my family, so I can vouch for what you're saying. Very safe, no tourists, amazing right now. We were fortunate enough to go to Puglia, and so that was a great time. We went to a bunch of little smaller towns around that region, so that was great. And but yeah, so back to Babel search. So you sent me an amazing prototype on that, and is it true that you're using VoiceFlow for that? Did the folks at VoiceFlow help you with that, or how far are you in the process with it? Can you share those details?
Sure. The folks at voiceflow.com are total rock stars. And the reason that I love them is because they get UX. They are so user-friendly for those people who are not comfortable writing all their own code. They really make it, they've kind of broken it down into a simple set of steps, an algorithm that almost anybody can handle. And for those of us who aren't comfortable with the VoiceFlow process of building an Alexa skill, they have great coaching. They're there for you. They have great support. So I love how VoiceFlow has brought diversity to those of us who are building Alexa skills. They really have opened the playing field to non-coders and low coders. And that's why they remain, next to you, Paul, the rock stars in my life.
Well, I appreciate that, David. It's always great to talk to you, and I can vouch for what you're saying about VoiceFlow. There's a session later on today with Emily Linetto, their head of growth. She did a session for the Voice event, and I have been working directly with the VoiceFlow folks on some issues that Google Assistant has been having this week, unfortunately. And they to build a product that strong and a community that strong, and then also work directly with people like me who are just trying to build voice apps with issues that don't have anything to do with VoiceFlow. They have to do with Google Assistant. They are top notch, so I can vouch for that. Thanks, David. It's great seeing you, and I understand if you have to drop off because it's later where you are. And thanks for your time. Up next is Daniel Hill. Daniel, it's great to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're awesome. We also met back in January at Project Voice, and you also have a very strong background in voice. Can you share that with us and why and how you got into it?
Sure. Well, I've had a podcast for a few years. I started one on my own, and although I learned a lot from that experience, it wasn't one that really gained any traction. And one of my friends who's a marketer had told me about Amazon flash briefings. And that was something that at first I didn't really understand the appeal of. I didn't really get it, but I saw some of the success that she was having with it. And so I wanted to start my own, but I wasn't exactly sure how I could make it unique or bring value to this new platform with, a new audience in a way that I could actually stand out. And I thought, what's something that people have a lot of trouble understanding that if I communicated it in small batches, they might appreciate that information, they can digest it. And I thought of a bunch of different topics, but the one that I decided on was Instagram, because I feel like that's a platform that's constantly changing. They're adding features, they're changing the way it works. There's algorithm complications. And I thought, I can't blog fast enough. It takes me forever to write a blog post or to create a YouTube video, but I bet I could make an audio clip with whatever changed that day or answer a question in just a few minutes and provide that to people in a form of daily value. So after a lot of back and forth, I got approval from Instagram's legal team to use their logo and branding on my show, and I've been doing so. It's been about 18 months now, coming up on 2 years that I've been part of this environment. It's been really cool because there are some things that connect voice and social media, but not many. And so each time one happens, I feel like, oh, I'm in the right place. I'm positioned between two things that people really want to know about, and I'm right in the intersection. So that's really how I got to this point.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And I think it's very impressive that you went and did that and that you're putting out content. Can you talk to us a little bit more about the flash briefing? At last year's Nashville Voice Conference, we actually sat down and created flash briefings for about 30 businesses on the spot. That was one of our workshops. And we used Anchor. We basically said, okay, we're gonna talk through a concept, and people like Dan Cox were there to help kind of talk through, what they could make their podcast be about, the topics, and then talking about the flash briefing concept where it's shorter clips, more daily type of content, rather than like longer, doing it once a month or doing it once a week. And we just took the Anchor RSS feed and we put the Anchor RSS feed into the Alexa developer console. And then we showed them how to use the Anchor FM dashboard in the back end to upload new episodes all the time. And so once that RSS feed's set up, all they have to do is upload a new or record directly from the Anchor dashboard. So my point is, creating a flash briefing can be very easy. It can be done very quickly, but to do it really well, like can you talk us through, like, how can people get started, and then how can people in businesses really sort of perfect their craft like you've done?
So I would say you want to create content daily or as close to daily as possible. So you need to come up with a method where you can do that. If you're talking about your personal experiences, you probably have a lot to draw from. But if you pick a topic that people are searching for already, you'll do a lot better, right? Because people are constantly searching Google or searching Amazon for varieties of information, whether it's books or something skill related or elsewise. If you want to do this, Amazon has sort of changed their focus over the past few weeks with how they treat this. It was a very unique thing for the past couple of years, because if you said, Alexa, tell me the news, automatically the device would start playing whatever you'd subscribe to in whatever order you'd subscribe to. And it was a lot of short form content, typically 2 to 4 minute range. And you could get in 15 minutes a wide variety of information about a lot of topics to get you kind of caught up to speed on your daily commute while you made breakfast or whatever. Over the past few weeks, Amazon has shifted if you now say, tell me the news, it's going to play longer form content. And it's clear that Amazon wants to reward the bigger publishers, the BBC, NPR, Wall Street Journal. And so if you can still say, play my flash briefing, and the Amazon device will. But I think now in 2020, it's a little bit more platform agnostic, right? It's making a short daily audio program that's available on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, as well as Amazon service. Google really has locked theirs down that, again, only the big publishers can put work out there. So you have to be recognized as a Google News publisher. Again, Wall Street Journal, CNN, the bigger names. But I do think it's a really good opportunity to still create daily content that people will access on whatever platform they're comfortable accessing it on. And it forces you to get better at making sure you do it consistently. I know for myself, I'm the kind of person, if you tell me, Daniel, go to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it's very hard for me to do that. But it's much easier for me to go to the gym every day because I just wake up every day and like, oh, that's my thing. That's what I'm doing. I don't wake up and like, what day is it? So if you get into that same sort of method when it comes to creating content, you're going to do really well with that because it's just going to become part of your routine.
Yeah, I agree with that too, because I also think that, people ask me a lot about data, and they ask me like, what does the data say that I should be doing? And I think the more, if you put out 5 flash briefings a week, AKA 1 a day or whatever in a weekday, instead of 3 like every other day, you're going to get more data. You're going to get more over time. You're going to get a lot more data to where you can actually start to make those decisions. So and you're not going to hit on every piece of content, right? But if you increase the frequency, not only does it help, I think, to your point with the routine, but I think it helps also with the data that you're going to get back, and then also the chance that you'll be found, and then it can help your business. So, okay. So I saw Shayna from Corner to Corner asked what's the name of your podcast? And you replied in the chat, the Instagram stories. So what's the best way for people to find it? You mentioned it's everywhere, but what's the easiest way for people to find it?
I'll actually paste a link into the chat if that's okay. And then you
perfect.
can go on Amazon.com and search for it there. But there's a website that I'm using called Plink. If you're not familiar with Plink and you have a podcast, it's the best. So it's free. You go there, you type in the name of the podcast, and it gives you a link on every platform that you could possibly find it on. And then when you send it to somebody else, they get the link to pick it on whatever platform they want to listen to it on. And you can embed it in your website and everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Emily Binder got me hooked on Plink, and so it's my favorite. But when you find an episode, you ever like listen to an episode of a podcast, you're like, oh, Paul, I bet you'd love this. And like, well, what do you use? Oh, you have Apple Music. I have Spotify. It's like, it's a stupid conversation. So anyway,
yes.
Plink, I'll paste it in the link in 1 second.
I love that. Thanks, Daniel. Okay, lastly, why should businesses take voice seriously? I mean, you've been in this space for a while now. Why should businesses take this seriously?
I think my favorite part of voice is because I'm constantly comparing it to social media. Voice has a much wider net. With social media, typically, someone who's going to be age 13 or 14 to maybe like 45, 50, 55 tops that you're going to have that social media interaction with. Not to say that there aren't going to be outliers, but for the most part, that's going to be your area. But that leaves out a lot of people. Like, what about people who are younger, who might not have phones yet, or who might not be on social media, or people who are older, who eyesight is a problem for them, or they're just never going to engage in that manner? I think voice is a great opportunity to connect with those people. And that is also counting people who may not have the ability to read, may have eyesight problems. All of those people can interact with your voice skill or your voice experience in a way that they can't with other platforms. And I think that's a huge thing. A lot of times we're doing activities throughout the day where our hands are busy, right? Like if I'm making dinner and I'm washing dishes at the same time, I don't have time to reach for my phone. I'm not going to sit at the computer. But a voice experience in that gives me an opportunity to do a lot of things and get a lot of information while I'm multitasking. So it's a successful, good use of my time. I also think that people's commutes are a really key time when they can get small digestible chunks of information. I think the average commute in America is around 20 minutes, depending on how close you live to a major city. But that's a key time. People have their hands busy, but they still want to gain that information. So that's where I think voice is going to be a really key thing for businesses going forward.
I love that. Daniel Hill, you're a professional. Very, very happy that you were able to join us today. Hopefully you can stick around.
Yeah.
Great insights. Really appreciate it. One more time, the Instagram stories. Thanks for putting all that into the chat, and really appreciate it.